Nearly every TV show or anime you watch is going to be around 23 minutes long, from the Attack on Titans, Amazing World of Gumballs, and even extending to live action stuff like Friends, The Office, and if your poor soul ever had to sit through a full episode of The Big Bang Theory, it was probably around 23 minutes long. But have you ever wondered why this might be? Well, the very simple answer to this is money, as everything is in the industry, it revolves around money, and the need for advertisements in the middle of a TV show often leads to the 30-minute slot that they're allocated getting cut down to 23 or 25 minutes. The likes of SpongeBob regular show and today's topic of discussion, Frieren, all break these rules. And yes, you're probably thinking, but Frieren always has 23-minute long episodes, and yes, you would be right, I have lied a little bit, but it does break this rule for 11 of the 28 episodes, which is a good enough portion that it is worth discussing. I want to talk about why Frieren so often diverges from the 23-minute format that we're so used to seeing, and why it works. And then afterwards I would like to speak about why they might have stopped doing this and gone back to the 23-minute episode format later on in the series. There are three pillars I'd like to talk about when discussing this topic, and the first one is growth. It's key to developing any character and fundamental to the story that Frieren is trying to tell. It's a story about growth, so obviously the main character needs a clear obstacle resolution and something that changes them somewhere in the middle. The growth a character can achieve in a 23 minute episode compared to two 11-minute episodes seems at first glance the same or relatively comparable at the very least, but I'd like to argue otherwise. Most storytelling structure can fall into a couple of archetypes, and the two main ones are the 3-act structure and the hero's journey. In each of these, at some point the characters must grow, and while episodes don't exactly match these archetypes, they fit into a simplified version of them. I think this is where you can extract more growth in these shorter episodes. You have two of these stories in every 23 minutes compared to one in every 23 minutes. This allows the characters to find resolutions and change twice in one whole episode. The downside to this is, of course, the stakes will always be lower, but Frieren does not fall short because of that. Frieren is at its best, I think, when telling small self-contained stories, and seeing more of them is almost always a good thing. The complexities of characters in Frieren is something worthy of studying, and I don't think that level of growth we see in characters like Stark or Frieren could be done in such a confined time otherwise. This coincides with complexities of characters like Frieren and Eisen. It wouldn't have been doable if each story was a full episode, and that's why I think the pacing is so vital to the storytelling structure. This level of character writing wouldn't be doable without the pacing, and the pacing wouldn't be nearly as effective if it weren't for the great growth of characters. Pacing is really the only criticism I see of Frieren, and the word boring usually comes straight after the word pacing. Now, I would argue that Frieren's pacing is one of the many reasons the show is so special. You get to see so much of our characters in their small stories due to the high concentration of them. We see how they handle different situations and begin to understand them more. The pacing does wonders for helping us feel attached to characters quickly. Take Sign for an example. But if you see this criticism levied so often against the show, there must be some truth to it. So why? Well, I believe the people who have a pacing or boredom problem with the show have more of a problem with the stakes. Frieren doesn't have very much stakes until around chapter 100 of the manga, which I won't get into here, but it could be the real issue many have with the show. In almost all popular anime there are villains. Naruto has the Akatsuki, Evangelion has the Angels, and Demon Slayer has, well, the demons. And in every long-running shonen there are always villains popping in and out of the story constantly, but Frieren doesn't have that, and the nearest we've got to this got low-diffed pretty quickly by Frieren herself. Frieren can at times feel like a slice of life that will occasionally pull off some of the best animation you will ever see, and I think that's exactly where Frieren's pacing should be. The lack of any immediate threat allows the growth to be pursued in a much more satisfying and clever way. And the length and density of these episodes allow for it all to happen. There's an amazing video from Paytalk's Anime that talks about how the subtlety of the storytelling in Frieren allows for a world that gives us so much information but at the same time feels so slow, and that is the perfect place I think Frieren can be in. But what about the other 17 episodes that don't follow this format? Well, that's where expectations come in. Frieren is set up in one full episode, and that is the expectations of the people watching the show. They expect a full episode following one storyline. This gets the viewer hooked, and by the third episode you are fully engrossed in the two-part storytelling that the show is so good at. And it stays this way up until the major exam arc, but if it was doing something so well, why would it switch the storytelling structure so drastically? Well, I think the reason for this drastic change in storytelling is audience expectation. The audience might expect the exam to go by fast because that's what it always has in the show so far, but instead the major exam lingers. This completely flips the show on its head and puts our characters in a completely different situation. They are facing difficulties that last longer than 11 minutes, they last over multiple episodes. This heightens so much of Frieren, and this subversion of expectations is a running thing that the author plays with. You expect a normal fantasy world with the use of tropes, but you get something so different. And this change in episode length is just another example of a major technique that makes Frieren such a memorable show. It's genius in a way by making such a small, almost trivial decision to make episode parts shorter that can have such a profound impact on the direction of an entire magical story. Thanks very much if you've gotten this far, and if you have any constructive criticism on my writing or editing or anything, please do tell me, because I really want to get better at making and specifically writing video essays. So yeah, criticism, hopefully constructive, is very much accepted. Thank you and bye.